good against, well, I guess like value decks, right? If you get into this non-interactive value game, it's like Dredge, Humans. That's why I liked Elves as a dark horse. If Dredge and Humans are decks 1 and 2, Elves is a great place to be.
Right. And Elves will generate a very wide battlefield, but as a deck, it's a little bit cold to flying creatures, and Sectile Aberration is very powerful in the matchup.
Turn 1, we see Llanowar Elves from Levi. Some different splashes are available for the Elves decks. Sometimes we'll see Shaman of the Pack. Sometimes we will see the Devoted Druid combo. For Levi, it is just black-green. 4 Shaman of the Pack. And that's going to be it. Otherwise, we're on green cards. Just 2 copies of Lead the Stampede, however. And opt into Delver of Secrets on turn 2 for Jordan. This feels a little slow for the matchup.
It is. One thing he might have been leaning on, he does have 2 copies of Spell Snare in the deck, so the second land he could have been leaving up. But what happened is what always happens is 2 things. A, Levi cast a 3-mana spell off of his mana creature. B, his second land was Cavern of Souls.
Right.
So you don't actually ever get to Spell Snare this deck, even though it does play 8 pretty impactful 2-mana creatures.
Yeah, in theory, Spell Snare is live, but
I board them out every time, even though I leave it in against decks like Humans if I'm playing it, because sometimes you'll get something. You just never do against Elves.
if you do, it's also kind of a cog, right? You're looking at Dwinnen's Elite and Elvish Visionary.
Those cards are both pretty good. Visionary is more mopey, but snaring a Dwinnen's Elite's a pretty big swing.
Dwinnen's Elite's good. Visionary, interestingly, is down to a 1-of in the deck.
Okay.
Because of Elvish Clan Callers printing recently, there just isn't room for it.
I'd snare that.
On the untap, Jordan abrades down the Elvish Archdruid and hits in for 1. The Delver did not transform, however.
And this is one of those matchups, a lot of times I talk about the check for Delver of Secrets being whether it lives, and if it transforms, you can worry about that later. This is one of very few matchups where transforming on time matters a lot. Eventually, the Elves deck can just grind you down. You want to get those flying points in. And this is part of the reason there's a Collected Company resolving
Main
here.
phase Collected Company finds a new Archdruid and a second Llanowar Elves for Levi. And I was actually going to ask that, whether you can actually removal spell down the Elf deck. If you give them enough time, can you get them to 0 cards in hand, 0 creatures in play, or are they going to overwhelm you?
You can. The thing about being a strictly is-it deck is in order to grind a creature deck down, you usually have to rely on stuff like Electrolyze, and Wizards does not play cards of that nature. All their cards tend to be 1-for-1s outside of Snapcaster Mage.
And here is that Snapcaster Mage, so it is the 2-for-1. Main phase, Jordan will Snapcaster in a braid onto that Archdruid. He's successfully keeping all of Levi's payoffs off the board, but he's just not making progress. See Levi still at 19.
Mm-hmm. And that Collected Company, it was a little bit weaker. One of the finds was Llanowar Elves, but this is a nice follow-up. Lead the Stampede. This is up to a draw 5.
Yeah. The cards in the Lead Stampede were 2 companies. Those can't be hit, but we see Azuri, Clan Caller, and Nettle Sentinel. It's really hard to keep pace with Elves, isn't it?
Yes, it's very difficult, and that's why I was stressing the transformation of that Delver of Secrets. You have to just be getting damage in this matchup.
See Clan Caller and Nettle Sentinel cast by Levi. And that's just it. Had the Delver transformed right away, Levi would be at 11 instead of this healthy 17.
Right. If you get far enough ahead, say you Lightning Bolt the first mana creature, you Mana Leak the first Collected Company, and the Lead the Stampede, like you use your Snapcaster on Mana Leak for the other value card, you can grind them out that way. But if they resolve the first thing and they get on the front foot, suddenly Levi's in a position where he can kind of choose the windows where he wants to cast his additional value spells, and they've just been resolving in this game.
Jordan says go, leaving up mana. And now Levi untapping with 6. If he's worried about counter magic, let's look at Elvish Clan Caller. This is the addition from M19. He actually has a very nice 6-mana ability available to him.
Yeah, and the 2 Llanowar Elves get him up to 6 mana. You can just search your library for an additional copy of Clan Caller. Just put it right on the battlefield.
And we paid 2 mana for a Clan Caller, but we did not use Cavern of Souls.
Ugh.
Spell Snare's going to hit it. I'm going to cast Heritage Druids. Feels a little bad there. 3 mana, Azuri, untapping Nettle Sentinel. Who really cares, though?
Yeah, he did cast a draw 3 already.
Yeah.
So it's not like his resources are precious. He has a couple to give away.
Back up Azuri in hand in case a removal spell hits the first one.
He's already in a position where an overrun next turn is a lot of damage.
Yeah, we have 1 Lord effect right now, that Clan Caller pumping the team. And it looks like an attack. This is going to be for 3. Jordan drops to 14. And if you give him an untap, right, this is... We're almost looking at lethal. Maybe we just are looking at lethal.
Now we're definitely looking at lethal. There's a Shaman of the Pack.
Okay. Shaman of the Pack, if that resolves, we're seeing a Braid on Azuri in response. It's still a drain for 6. Jordan down to 8. And Levi left with 1 card, which happens to be another Azuri.
Yeah, the Azuri is good, but also just if Reith can't get that Clan Caller off the table, these elves are attacking for a ton as is.
Yeah, even if Levi draws a land and just says, tap Llanowar Elves, tap 5 lands, tap Clan Caller, get another Clan Caller, that's a lot of damage.
Right. Mana Leak was revealed there, but
okay.
Pitts will know to use his Cavern of Souls on the Azuri.
I think so. Jordan just has to pass at 8.
And your attacks are just pretty good here.
Well,
Trading a 2/2 Llanowar Elves with a Aberration or a Snapcaster Mage, both fine.
Azuri is cast using Cavern of Souls.
Nice.
And now we see a swing. It is Nettle Sentinel, Shaman of the Pack. Will Moore join? Sure. Heritage Druid comes in.
Yeah, the Clan Caller is really the only creature he doesn't really want to trade in combat. The
Yeah.
Llanowar Elves you can hang back as mana generators. They can regenerate things that aren't Azuri. That makes some sense.
Yeah, so this is a swing as it stands. 4 off the Shaman, 3 off the Nettle, 2 off the Heritage Druid. It's for 9. This will force some action. And 3 regeneration shields up.
Right. Yeah, Reith can put some creatures in front, but he's not going to be trading with anything. And this is actually an overrun on deck because the Heritage Druid can just tap 3 of those elves, Llanowar Elf, and land.
If he wants to go for it. It looks like... So Jordan right now offering 2 trades. And
you know one of the cards in Jordan's hand is Mana Leak, too. So that one's not going to do anything.
yeah, Jordan does have Nimble Obstructionist, actually, if Levi goes for the play.
Okay, that would allow him to trade with the 2 creatures.
I kind of just like on Levi's side regenerating the 2 blocked creatures and saying, yeah, take 3.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the Wizards deck, and you know Jeff Hoagland has a top 4 with this build, then you should be aware of Obstructionist.
Is he going to go for the big play? He is. He's going to go for the overrun. 3 mana, 4/5, overrun the Azuri. Now, Obstructionist will take care of this.
Well, the thing is even if Reith has it and you see him go for it, this just means that there's 2 trades happening.
Yeah, this means Jordan doesn't lose.
Right.
It does not mean that Jordan wins.
It means Jordan loses next turn.
So the trade happens. Jordan goes to 5.
Yeah, pretty on board with shoving when the consequence is win next turn.
Yeah. If you have the literal best card, you get to play another turn of Magic.
With an empty board.
Right. And still goes to 5.
Right.
Right? Like, he still took the damage there. Mutavault from Jordan. And a pass.
2 lands that can block. 3-card hand, one of them we still know is Mana Leak.
And Heritage Druid, untapping Nettle Sentinel. Not using the Cavern yet.
Well, the funny thing is if Reith just casts Mana Leak,
Okay.
doesn't matter. You already untapped the Nettle Sentinel, which is kind of the big impact of this spell. And now there's 2 mana accounted for. You can only fire up 1 Mutavault. Really easy to make lethal attacks.
And there's no need to cast an overrun on Levi's side anymore. He already has +1. The team's pumped from Clan Caller. Those regenerations off Azuri should be enough.
Right.
Nettle Sentinel, Azuri. Who else is joining on in? We have Llanowar Elves attacking.
I mean, you can just make an Alpha Strike and put a regeneration shield on the Clan Caller.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty free to do that. You can also just leave up Overrun.
Sure.
What's he going to do? Yeah, he can fire up 1 Mutavault and Obstructionist again, but then he's still taking lethal.
Yeah, and he picks up the cards. If he makes blockers, then he taps all his lands, Levi overruns. Right. If he doesn't make blockers, well, then he's not blocking.
Right.
Game 1 goes over to Levi, Pitts, and Elves. That was actually pretty interesting stuff going on there. So I asked the question in Game 1 if Jordan could control the board to the point where Levi has no creatures in play, no cards in hand. Based on that game, I'm going to say no.
He did not get his counter magic online. He was put in a position where he was just kind of behind Collected Company.
Right.
If he had Mana Leak up for the first company, that would have at least changed the initial texture of the game. But once that came down, that was a really big issue.
Now, post-board, he has one big card in his sideboard that can help him actually grind down the entire board. I'm looking at Is It Staticaster.
Yeah, that's a huge upgrade, and those 2 gut shots are also really strong as well. So 4 pretty excellent cards to bring into the matchup. Staticaster also gained some value with Clan Caller being a 1/1 Lord.
Okay.
Really easy to gun that one down.
Now, cards like Negate and Spell Pierce, they counter Lead the Stampede, they counter Collected Company, and that's it. They're pretty conditional, but are they better than some of the stuff Jordan has in the main?
If you had a Dispel, I would reach for that. I'm pretty on board leaving the Mana Leaks in, because in an odd situation, sometimes there's no Cavern of Souls, you can counter an Elvish Archdruid. It is better, it's generally fairly good at countering Collected Company, unless you're already very far behind, at which point, what does it matter what counterspell you've drawn? In a similar situation for Lead the Stampede, you can make the argument that Negate is a little bit better against both of those cards, but the fact that Mana Leak sometimes will get a creature spell, I think makes it better in the matchup.
Now, I'm also just see how Levi sideboards. He has Shaper's Sanctuary, perhaps against removal. Damping Spear and Assassin's Trophy, probably not for the matchup. Heroic Intervention is interesting. Spellskite's interesting. He has Reclamation Sage, Prelic of Virginius, Court of Calling, Loaming Shaman, Fracturing Gust. I don't know how many of that stuff he wants. What's interesting is that neither Is It Wizards isn't stock. You know, I've heard there have been players on the SCG Tour who board in Anger of the Gods out of this deck.
That's something. I think it's a very safe bet to say that Shaper's Sanctuary will be good in the matchup. And in general, I don't mind having a Spellskite against a removal-heavy deck. I could take it or leave it here, especially when you're already bringing in 3 Sanctuaries. You're pretty fine just redrawing off of any Lightning Bolt or what have you. This sideboard plan does not make you better against Delver of Secrets, and for that reason, right. I kind of do like going for those Assassin's Trophies, just because the flying attacker can be a big issue when you're trying to get set up. And especially if you're redrawing off of Sanctuary, it's fine using one of your draws in a removal spell.
Do you think we'll see Heroic Intervention? Will he respect Anger of the Gods?
I don't think that you should. I feel like if your wizard deck, a tribal creature deck that's heavy on creatures, is playing a sweeper, it's because your deck is misbuilt. It will be a blowout, but Pitts has a game to give. And when it's talking about speculative sideboard card that's probably wrong to have in the deck in the first place, you're mostly looking at Intervention being a negate for a Lightning Bolt specifically. So I would keep that on the side.
Jordan Reith on the play here starts with Steam Vents. And again, we will have Delver of Secrets. He's hoping it can transform this time.
Right. On the play, Delver, if it transforms, that makes matchups like this pretty good.
And we see Shaper's Sanctuary out of the sideboard for Levi Pitts. Looks like he has gone that direction. And he revealed Dwinnen's Elite to that Guiltleaf Palace.
So these are good tools for the attrition part, and this is why you would like to see Assassin's Trophy brought in as well. There's a possibility that the Delver could transform and Aberration could just be too fast.
Delver does not transform this time, and it will attack in for 1. Jordan makes Mutavault.
You know what the problem is? Jordan doesn't believe. you gotta believe.
He plays Young Pyromancer. We do see Elvish Clan Caller for Levi Pitts. So that's what it just has to believe here. And there we go. He believes, and there's Mana Leak.
Must have heard me.
There's not even a cavern on the other side.
Right. That Mana Leak looks to be pretty good here, especially because there's a Shaper Sanctuary, so you don't want to target creatures on the battlefield. So a counterspell becomes quite a bit better than a removal spell.
Do you want to offer the trade? Jordan doesn't. He swings just with the Delver.
Yeah, that Pyromancer generates some pretty reasonable value. And in a lot of the games, the way it shapes up, Pits can generate some value that amounts to controlling 1/1 creatures as long as you keep the Lords in check. And the Elemental tokens are very good when the game shapes up like that.
Blooming Marsh for Levi, but he runs an Azuri straight into Mana Leak. I mean, he doesn't have Cavern, so I guess it has to tag something, but that feels bad.
We know that one of the other cards is Dwinnen's Elite. It's really dicey to run that out when you only have 1 elf. Because a removal spell means you're just casting a 2/2. I guess you're drawing a card with the Shaper Sanctuary, but it's still not very good. Deck's also pretty flush with 3-mana stuff. Might just be stuck on that.
Swing for 4 from Jordan. We get that Ross Miriam elemental token.
Looks just like Ross. The resemblance is uncanny.
There's the Twins Elite we know about. Does Jordan have another counter spell? He's got something.
Fetching for a third land here is intriguing.
He could Obstructionist the enter the battlefield trigger?
I would just cast the Obstructionist
Yeah.
if that's the plan. That's a 2-turn clock.
What else he has available?
It's possible that he is spell snaring this and wants to leave his red mana available. I could see that being a reason to fetch.
Okay. Looks like he has Is It Staticaster in hand.
Ooh, Staticaster, the Clan Caller in response. That's pretty good, too.
That's the play. Here's the Staticaster. Response shoots Clan Caller. Levi draws a card. But with the way this game is shaping out, I don't feel like drawing a card matters.
Right.
And that's kind of what you were mentioning. If you don't have to play the attrition game plan if you have that transformed Delver.
Yes. Young Pyromancer also adds some to that as well. That'll snowball some value, let you go wide.
Second Dwinnen's Elite by Levi, but he's already down to 10. Looks like he'll be hit to 7 in the air this turn, and then Jordan can close the deal with some burn. Levi has not presented pressure, and he doesn't have a great way to remove a Delver of Secrets.
And at this point, it's a problem where the Young Pyromancer will generate a lot of value as well. 10 life is not that much to play with either. This is a deck that is full of Lightning Bolts and Wizard's Lightning, is in a matchup where I would not board out any of that.
A swing in for 4. The Elemental token simply blocked by the Twins Elite. Jordan will finish it off. Levi gets a card. Jordan's okay with this trade. Levi down to 7. Jordan does have a Wizard's Lightning in hand. You mentioned it.
That exchange with Elemental tokens, Staticaster activation was kind of medium. He's gut-shotting to finish off the other Elite, but he just kind of gave up 2 cards. Being kind of needlessly aggressive with that stuff.
Well, the thing I would have wanted to see different out of the gut shot is Levi's at 7, and Jordan has a Wizard's Lightning in hand. So
right.
That's possibly cost him a turn, because next turn we have 3 in the air, 3 upstairs, and the gut shot for the final point.
Yeah, I think he's so far ahead that what he does doesn't matter, but what he's doing is incorrect.
Yeah, well, there is an advantage to what he's doing. With Levi down to 1 blocker here in that token, Jordan has a lot of attackers to maybe force extra damage, including a Mutavault.
Yeah. It's really easy for him to close the game from here.
Looks like Levi's hand is 3 copies of Shaman of the Pack.
That'd be good for 2 damage.
Yeah. There is in a different world, that's a very good hand. If Levi had the board, it would be very hard for Jordan to deal with it. But here it's just doing very little.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mentioned when he ran out the Azuri into a known mana leak, is his deck can get hung up on 3s, and Shaman's not a card you want to lead on. Well,
the whole curve, right, of Sanctuary into Clan Caller into Azuri. On the play, or on the draw, like, that's just not very fast. What Elves really likes is these Llanowar Elf Archdruid plays where or Heritage Druid where it gets tons of mana early.
Yes. If Wizards, we replace that with a strictly more controlling deck. This draw is definitely fine, but there's a lot of pressure from the creatures here on Reith's side.
Collected Company from Levi, and Delver will attempt to transform. It does not, but I think with that burn plus an alpha attack here from Jordan, that looks lethal to me. And that's what he'll do. He'll shoot down the Clan Caller. There are 2 blockers on Levi's side. If you activate Mutavault, you have a whole ton of attackers.
Yeah, just line it up. The 2/2 power creatures are blocked. You get across for 5. Wizard's Lightning would clean up.
Yeah.
This way you get across for only 1 less damage, though, and the Wizard's Lightning still cleans up.
Yeah, so 4 gets across, and how about 3 more? Wizard's Lightning sends it to game 3. Jordan Reith cleaning up. Levi was on a bit of a slower plan, the kind that would be good against a heavy removal spell deck. Now, Jordan does have removal, but it played out differently. We saw Jordan just use Staticasters into a Shaper Sanctuary, cast removal into a Shaper Sanctuary, not really care. Levi lost with 6 cards in hand?
Yeah, he drew a lot of extra cards off that Staticaster, other removal spells, what have you. And that's just the thing. Yeah, Reith has a lot of draws, especially the turn 1 Delver draw on the play, where he's just attacking for too much. The cards in hand, it's like he got mind twisted when you lose the game with 6 in hand.
Yeah. I don't mind Shaper's Sanctuary in this matchup. If he's boarding out any sort of mana creature for it, though, I'm not sure I'm into that.
Yeah, you mentioned that, was it 3 Shaman of the Pack at the end of the game there?
Right.
That's actually the kind of creature that I don't like having against the removal-heavy decks.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing some of those traded for something else. Now, on the play, I don't think he has to respect Insectile Aberration as much.
It's a little easier for him to come online. On the play, there's more pressure for Reith to interact with your mana creatures while you get set up. Especially if you can go something like Llanowar Elf, turn 2, Shaper Sanctuary, Clan Caller, or Dwinnen's Elite, and just get on the battlefield with your Sanctuary, then it's a real problem.
Now, these are open weekends, not just the main event. We also have Infinite Challenges. If you haven't made it out to one of our events in a while, make sure to check this out. The Infinite Challenge package is a 2-day package that includes entry into all challenge events, which are 4-round events in a variety of formats happening all weekend long. And it's another way to get one of the playmats of the exclusive ones that you normally would get from entering the main event. So there's now an expanded side event schedule, which you can check out at starcitygames.com/schedule. You can get that Llanowar Elves playmats. It would go well with the Levi Pitts' deck.
It would. I like the strategy of elf deck on elf playmat in green sleeves and a box with elves written on it.
I'm all about that. Just let them know.
I have a deck box. I don't know when, why, or how I got it, but it has Living End written on it, and I use it a lot.
I've never seen you play Living End.
That deck is very far outside of my range.
Levi on a mulligan here. But if we're on a kind of game where Levi ended with 6 cards in hand, I think a mulligan is fine.
Right. It's more about what he can add to the battlefield. The way he won Game 1 involved generating a lot of extra cards as well. It wasn't with Shaper Sanctuary, it was with Lead the Stampede and Collected Company.
Shaper Sanctuary again on turn 1 for Levi. And big win for Levi here as Jordan is Spirebluff Canal go. So we'll see Nettle Sentinel out of Levi. If it's a slower start from Jordan, I really like the Shaper Sanctuary start.
Yes. Levi chose not to reveal the elf he was casting this turn to his Guiltleaf Palace.
And we see already, Jordan's feeling like he has to bolt Nettle Sentinel, and Levi draws a card.
Yeah, and honestly, Nettle Sentinel is a creature in this matchup that if I can all afford not to, I just don't Lightning Bolt at all.
Yeah.
And Sanctuary makes that even worse. You generally want to go for creatures that are lords or produce a meaningful amount of mana. Like the turn 1 Llanowar Elf is a fine one to bolt.
Mutavault go from Jordan. And that makes sense. If you're trading Lightning Bolts with Nettle Sentinels, you're gonna run out here.
Yes.
Because that's the kind of game plan you go on when you're trying to remove every creature.
Yes.
But I don't want to remove every creature into a Shaper Sanctuary.
Yeah, when your deck has things like Electrolyze, and it's really easy to deal with 1 toughness creatures, then you can Lightning Bolt the Nettle Sentinel. This configuration's a bit worse at doing that.
Now, Levi's turn 3 was Elvish Clan Caller, and it did come off a Cavern of Souls. Levi's found one of those. We see Young Pyromancer Gut Shot from Jordan. He's sticking to the game plan of just allowing Shaper Sanctuary to draw cards and hoping to race it as he makes an elemental token here.
Yeah. Clan Caller is definitely a creature that's usually worth a removal spell. A bit aggressive with it, but that's fine.
Another Clan Caller and a Nettle Sentinel from Levi as he reloads. Did not have a 4th land. He's got so many cards available. It looks like 3 still in hand for Levi, including a Lead the Stampede and that Shaper Sanctuary on the table.
Yikes. Reasonable chance that Reith has picked up something like a Mana Leak and can cover Lead the Stampede.
Yeah.
But the creatures in the Sanctuary, those are still going to be a problem. He doesn't have any flying attackers just yet. Over time, the Young Pyromancer can go wide. But the Nettle Sentinel really slows down 1/1 elemental tokens. It's going to take him a little bit to have good attacks with that.
And you're right, there's not too much removal out of the Elf deck, so Young Pyromancer will do a lot of work. As Jordan gets up to 4 mana. 4 cards still remaining in hand. We'll start with Opt, getting a 2nd elemental. See how wide he can make this board go. The scry is to the bottom off opt. Finds Is It Staticaster. That is nice on this board.
It's a very strong pickup. The Clan Caller being a 1/1 Lord, that is a huge swing in favor of Staticaster.
Swing and a block, Elemental is down. Now, Is It Staticaster from Jordan? I don't really understand that attack.
Yeah, he kind of just gave the Elemental away.
Yeah, Staticaster shoots down the Clan Caller and Levi draws a card.
Staticaster is so good that that'll forgive plays like that anyway. Now there's a lot of pressure on Levi to get Elvish Archdruids online.
Yeah, right. He's getting so many cards each turn right now that it really feels like the bottleneck on the Elf deck is his lands at this point.
Right.
He has looks like 4 cards or maybe 5 cards in hand after the draw step. How fast can he cast them? And it doesn't look like very fast is the answer. He casts Shaman of the Pack and now plays a tapped land.
I would have liked to have seen Levi attack with the Nettle Sentinel there. If
it was a free attack, right?
Right. If you trade with the Young Pyromancer, that's great. That card's off the table. And if you don't, the Shaman untaps your Nettle Sentinel.
Yeah, it's like I understand that if he trades, our Shaman is for 1 less, and that's okay.
Right.
And now this attack makes sense. Jordan swings for 1 with the Elemental. Now were Levi to block, the Staticaster would finish off either creature.
Right. And 1 damage from 20 is pretty inconsequential.
Tap land and a go from Jordan. Can he keep pace? 4 cards in hand for Levi. We'll start with another Shaper Sanctuary.
All right, that's not bad.
Yeah, if Jordan was hoping to stem, to go late, that's just not going to happen. He will mana leak, and let's see if Levi pays.
So this is actually a really interesting decision because Levi has that Lead the Stampede.
Okay.
And resolving that might actually be worth more than the Shaper Sanctuary on this turn.
Right.
I'd be inclined to let this be countered than just Lead the Stampede.
It looks like Levi's hand is land, Lead the Stampede, and Heroic Intervention. Because he has no more threats, I think I agree with you here. I would like to let this get countered.
Yeah, you got to get some creatures online.
Levi's weighing the decision. If you pay for this...
If you pay for this and wait, then you're giving Reith the potential to have Snapcaster Mana Leak on future turns.
And he plays the land. Is he going to cast Lead the Stampede?
I think he gestured like he was passing. He's respecting the 2 mana left up. I would have forced Reith to have the 2nd Mana Leak there.
Yeah, maybe it's not Lead the Stampede. We'll have to. I think he wants to leave up Heroic Intervention. And a full swing here from Jordan. Mutavault and 2 Elementals. Now, to be fair, Heroic Intervention might be pretty darn good here. You get to eat 2 cards.
Make your blocks, and then... I think that you just go in front of the 2 Elementals, and then the Staticaster is activated, you draw a card, and you Intervention to save whatever was targeted.
Okay.
Because if you put it in front of the Mutavault, then you have to more proactively cast the Intervention.
Looks like, yeah, he's going to take the full hit. If this is the case, I feel like Levi is being punished by some indecision here. He either wanted... If he wasn't going to cast the Heroic Intervention there, then he should have paid the Mana Leak.
Right.
Like, do something. Commit, decide what you want to do with those 3 mana. The fact that our spell got Mana Leaked and we never used any of the 3 lands feels like a missed opportunity.
Right.
And here's Lead the Stampede from Levi.
And now he's playing into Snapcaster Mage on Mana Leak.
And Jordan has it.
So he's leaving up the Intervention, but the card you were talking about is the potential for Anger of the Gods. Jordan's not going to cast an Anger of the Gods. He's ahead on the table.
Right. Yeah, Levi's got to go one way or the other here. And, yeah, right, because now nothing works. This Mana Leak both countered Shaper Sanctuary and Lead the Stampede. It feels like one of them should have resolved.
Right.
Snapcaster on Mana Leak will take care of Lead the Stampede. And another Elemental token for Jordan. And he's going to start pulling ahead now. A healthy board for Jordan Reith. And Levi says go again. We know it's Heroic Intervention plus 1 other card. I still like your play here of blocking 2 Elemental tokens and then letting a card happen off Staticaster and then casting Heroic Intervention.
Yeah, he's playing the Intervention as if it's going to do something big. And I don't think he's ever going to have a window to do something big.
I like this. He blocks 2 Elemental tokens, takes 5, goes to 10. This is a great play by Levi. I would have liked to have seen it last turn, but it should still be good this turn.
Right.
So, Staticaster going to try to finish off one of the creatures. Levi draws a card, and now he'll save it with Heroic Intervention. His permanents gain Hexproof and Indestructible. Land and one other in Jordan's hand, and he says, yeah, that's fine. It says go. But it looks like we have some types of burn in Jordan's hand. We'll see Dwinnen's Elite from Levi. A strong play, to be sure. I mean, two pair of 1/1s. Did not cast that off Cavern, and that's because he's got something he'd rather be doing.
A Shaman of the Pack would be pretty nice.
I would not mind that here. That would be for 5. Love this attack from Levi.
Yeah, I would not mind trading either of these for that Pyromancer, especially after getting some of those elementals off the table.
That is a great attack. I think you mentioned earlier you want to see a Nettle Sentinel swing as well, but I'm glad to see it attacking here. Yes. Jordan down to 9. And now, yeah, they'll see that Shaman of the Pack, and that's going to be it. It's Caverned. You can't counter it. Nettle Sentinel untaps. That's going to drain Jordan down to 4.
Yes, that's huge. Now it's going to be really tough for Jordan to make attacks.
Wizard's Lightning in response to Shaman with Shaman on the stack.
Make sure you get that Shaper's Sanctuary. Good.
Yep.
So that reduces the Shaman damage by 1. Gets another elemental token.
It goes to 5.
But this is still in territory where another Shaman is lethal.
And this is a Wizard's Lightning that didn't go upstairs, which is also a pretty big win with how the game's shaping.
Right.
Back to Jordan we go. Things have gotten very close here. So Jordan at 5. It feels like he's got to get 10 damage together this turn. I don't know if he can survive another turn cycle. Like maybe, but he'll have to give away a lot.
Yeah, there's only so many Shamans, but we're also getting into a phase of the game where Pitts just has good attacks.
Yeah, if Pitts just has a Clan Caller, suddenly the attacks are great. And here's a swing. It's a pretty conservative one by Jordan. It is just a swing for 4. It's Mutavault and Snapcaster Mage. And I like the block by Levi a lot here. Yes. The 1/1 token in front of Snapcaster. I almost wanted to see the Is It Staticaster kill the token so that the block couldn't happen.
Right. You don't want to give up the card, but if that's the case, I think you just attack with the Mutavault. If you're going to attack with both, you should Staticast down the Elf first.
Yeah, we might go a full turn cycle without Staticaster shooting something, which feels pretty bad.
Right.
Unless
it's a fine blocker. It has 3 toughness.
I guess unless Jordan has a second Staticaster in his hand, in which case I'm all about this.
Yeah, you can start. Well,
it's still close.
It's 2 cards for every elf.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be fine giving that to him on his end step if I'm going to try to untap and win.
Yeah, if you had that.
I guess you're right. With 5 lands in play, you really can't start giving Levi just a fistful of cards. He'll cast them all. Early on in the game, and especially in Game 2, when Levi had 3 lands in play and a lot of cards in hand, it felt pretty free to let him draw extra things.
Yes. Yeah, when he was missing land drops, it was a very different texture for the game.
We're going to see perhaps a swing here from Levi. It is Nettle Sentinel and Shaman of the Pack. And let's just make it the whole team. Dwinnen's Elite will join on in. Staticaster going to try to take that free block on Dwinnen's Elite. Or Nettle Sentinel, rather. A double block on Shaman of the Pack. No, 2 chump blocks make it.
Reith can be pretty convinced that Pitts will be able to generate blockers for the elemental tokens.
Sure.
So his board's not quite wide enough to attack back. Conserving life total from 5. The life is valuable.
A Cavern of Souls Nettle Sentinel will be cast by Levi. That untaps the first Nettle. And we have an Elvish Mystic.
He was sitting on that for a little bit, and now when there's already 2 creatures that will be static cast, he knows he's getting a card either way. I like playing the Mystic there a lot.
Yep, Levi played out his whole hand. On end step, Jordan used the Staticaster to finish off Shaman of the Pack. Levi draws a card, but it's on end step, so he can't cast it just yet. Back to Jordan Reith we go. He is running out of resources, however. You're going to have to try to find some burn spells. We'll see second Young Pyromancer. That's a way to get some resources back. 2 cards remaining. Maybe get some opts going on here.
That's one thing about this build, the Delver build of Wizards over the very cantrip-heavy build, is there's only so many ops. He only plays ops for cantrips.
We do have Wizard's Lightning in Jordan's hand, but a huge draw for Levi. It's a caverned up Azuri.
Yikes.
Oof.
Now you can Wizard's Lightning that down, but Pitts will replace that with a Shaper Sanctuary draw.
Yeah, and he'll get regeneration shields on cards if he needs that to happen.
Right.
I'm pretty into this. Azuri resolves. Swing with all of the 2/2s from Levi. 2 Nettle Sentinels and Dwinnen's Elite. Now, Wizard's Lightning is a pretty strong play here. It makes 2 elementals and can shoot down Azuri. So that's the target. We'll see Shaper Sanctuary first. He's going to throw some regeneration shields around. He still technically can draw the card here off Sanctuary. He has not, depending on what he said, I don't believe he's missed. It's not for sure that he has missed the trigger yet.
Yeah.
And now he has. Now he has. But he did regenerate his creatures first.
So he's really going to want a spell to untap these Nettle Sentinels because now Reith has pretty good attacks with that Mutavault. The Young Pyromancers could possibly attack as well. Okay, this is a very nice follow-up.
How about that for Dwinnen's Elite? And there we go. We do catch one of the Sanctuary triggers. Dwinnen's Elite into the battlefield, untaps the team, makes another elf. And back to Jordan Reith we go. And he draws a land. I think his hand is 2 lands. And with this double Pyromancer, he needed more than that.
Yeah. This is where I really came to like Faithless Looting in the Wizards deck.
Yeah, one looting cleans this up.
You can't draw this many lands. And yeah, being able to turn the lands into actual spells would be a big deal.
Back to Levi we go. Life totals have stayed pretty constant for the last few turns, but Levi has, I think, been pulling ahead. It's still close.
Yes.
You're waiting for some slam dunk here on Levi's side, something like a Collected Company or Lead the Stampede.
And now that he's worn Reith out of resources, another Azuri would be very powerful as well.
Over on the backup table, Jadine Klumperrin's picking up another win here.
I think both players kind of out of stuff. It's like Pitt's just making a land drop and passing.
So the idea, if he's passing here, Ryan, the only reason I'd see him to think he would pass would be if he doesn't have a green spell to untap those Nettle Sentinels.
Right.
And
amusingly, that Staticaster activation helps Pitts out a lot in drawing green spells to have a follow-up.
Yeah. Jordan drew for the turn Grim Lavamancer. This should force action on Levi's side, because when he untaps, things will get pretty rough.
It's kind of a Visara the Dreadful, but also Pitts is at 8.
For those of you at home, if you don't, who are under 30, Visara the Dreadful taps to kill a creature.
I'll have you know that I'm 29.
A trade of Mutavault and Young Pyromancer away. We see Elvish Mystic from Levi, untapping his Nettle Sentinel, and Dwinnen's Elite. It is hard to grind through these elves. There's just more of them.
Yes.
Every time you look. And that's 2 tokens, so the Staticaster only draws Levi 1 card.
Yeah, so now Reith does get to untap with the Lavamancer. Nice draw. Did draw a replacement Mutavault.
Yeah, Azuri can't even save you from Bizarra. Horizon Canopy cycles through.
Yeah, you don't see can't be regenerated anymore.
I think these should just be on every removal spell. It's nice when you print regeneration and then you make it completely irrelevant.
God, that art on Visara Dreadful is so nice, that Kev Walker piece. When I started the game in high school, he was one of my favorite artists.
To Levi will go. It looks like, is that another Shaman of the Pack? That is a Shaman of the Pack. Okay, that will put Jordan to 1. Yeah.
That's not a high life total.
I think we are going to see a response. How many of the elves would you like to remove in response? 1 or 2? How many more cards will you draw your opponent?
There's kind of some pressure on Reith to use the Grim Lavamancer to target Pitts.
I know. Levi floats a mana, draws a card. Staticaster shoots down the Visionary. And now Jordan... Looks like he just doesn't want to take that extra point of damage. Lavamancer will shoot down an elf as well.
Seems like the one to hit would be the Shaman itself. Just because it's a 3-power creature.
Yeah, Staticaster can't block it. Makes sense to me. Yeah, there's no reason to not let it... yeah, and that's what he comes to the conclusion of. Trigger on. And now he's going to take the whole 3. He's going to go to 2.
That's
he wants to go upstairs.
Fine. Yeah.
Love it. That was the play you wanted in the first place.
Yes. At some point, you have to close this game.
Yeah, that's acknowledging that you can't be the control deck here, right? That eventually you're going to... This removal spell into Shaper Sanctuary plan is going to fizzle.
Mm-hmm. There were some earlier turns in the game where Reith managed his elemental tokens in a way where he gave some away. If he was more conservative with those, you end up in a point where you either have a wide battlefield with good attacks or enough blockers to buy time to go for lethal with the Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah.
The way the game is shaping up, he kind of needs 2 things. It's tough for him to make lethal from here.
This is a really interesting turn, Ryan. It's with Jordan at 2, both these attackers are lethal. However, there's a Young Pyromancer, there's a Mutavault, there's a Grim Lavamancer activation. Levi does not want to tap away all his blockers.
Right.
His hand looks to be fetch land, 3rd card. Really depends on what that 3rd card is.
You would like to try to get the Lavamancer to target one of your creatures instead of your face.
Upstairs goes Jordan. Levi down to 6. Levi just passed with 3 cards in hand. I think they may be 3 lands. Back to Jordan we go. Things have gotten mighty close here. And Jordan says go back. Maybe he'll just keep using that Lavamancer. A draw from Levi, now up to 4 cards. He's hoping for something that's not a land.
Something like Lead the Stampede would be great draw here.
That would be okay.
Most of his just singular elf cards, the exception being, what would it be, the 4th Shaman of the pack here? Has he gone through 3 already in this game?
At least this was either the 2nd or the 3rd.
Yeah, so Collected Company, another very good draw on a spot like this. But stuff like more Elvish Mystics, those aren't going to do it.
Just Dwayne's elite attacks. Well, it's tempting on Jordan to just put a Staticaster in front of this.
Yeah. I'd be interested in that block.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't mind just trading the Mutavault.
Jordan's going to go for the 2nd.
The upside of trading Mutavault is that it makes it easier to fight over elves if a Shaman of the Pack does come down.
A tap land and a go. Grim Lavamancer going to shoot down.
Go to Levi.
Nope, go upstairs.
Now another turn has passed, so Reith just needs 1 Lightning Bolt to pair with this Lavamancer.
It's not even a Lightning Bolt. It's just, and if he misses it, I mean, Levi's on 3 lands. Jordan can just say go. But he drew the Lightning Bolt.
Lightning Bolt.
And that's going to do it. Upstairs for 3. Levi to 1. And Grim Lavamancer going to bring Izzet Wizards into the 9-2 bracket. 2-1. It's going to take this one down. And what a game there. That Jordan was able to removal spell his way through elves, not the strategy. I didn't think you would be able to execute it, honestly.